Hello there friends and welcome. For today's Elden Ring guide we have a very powerful build that's all about increasing your hit points to the max. You'll achieve around 3000 HP or even higher for the maximum possible of 3369. Having such a huge pool of HP will also let you achieve the highest lifesteal potential possible, as every single hit with your very special Ash of War will instantly recover even up to 1000 hit points no matter the enemy you're facing, which of course also lets you face tank even the final boss of the DLC with complete ease. Not to mention of course amazing damage, great hyper armor so you'll barely be staggered at all, and last but not least, great critical hit potential because every 3 strikes will instantly poise break even the toughest DLC bosses for free critical hits. So without further ado, let us get into our highest HP, best lifesteal build in the game. First with the core mechanics and how to play this character. Now your strongest ability, well besides such high hit points, is the Ash of War Prayerful Strike. On every single hit, it will restore your HP by 30% of your maximum amount. So of course, the higher your HP pool, the more you are restoring per use. At 60 vigor with around 3000 hit points, it's something like 900 restored per hit. But if you min-max your HP for the maximum possible at 99 vigor, we are talking about even higher than 1000 per strike. Amusingly enough, this does proc as an area of effect, at least as far as the regeneration effect, which means if you wanna support other players, or even your summons and spirit ashes, you can also heal them by loads of amounts. Besides that, it has multiple other benefits. First, it can be found decently early if you rush for it, so great even for the main game. Second, this Ash of War has an amazing amount of hyper armor, which means for the whole casting animation, you will not be staggered at all by most enemy attacks, with some very few exceptions like enemy grabs. Last but not least, because it's usable on axes and hammers, and great hammers have the highest poise damage possible, in just 3 uses of this with our Giant Crusher weapon, every single enemy in the game, including the DLC bosses, including the final boss, will be stance broken, which of course sets them up for a free critical hit, so yes, in most cases you can just spam this again and again for the win. Now that we know how to properly play our character, let's get into stat allocation and leveling up. And I've designed this build so that you can choose the level range you remain at, while still being highly efficient and effective. Starting with Vigor. 60 is of course as always ideal. This way you'll have around 3000 hit points when combined with our other buffs. If you have the points to spare and wanna go higher, then feel free to go to 99 of course, as this is how you'll get the true highest amount of HP possible, but honestly it's only around 300 HP compared to 60 vigor. It's not really that important, but if you have the points to spare, go for it. Besides that, we want strength, so that our Prayerful Strike will not only heal a lot, but also hit very hard. 80 is ideal for the highest damage. However, if you want to end this character at a lower level, 60 is enough. Besides that, around 20 mind, this way you can use your Prayerful Strike 6 times before having to drink an FP flask. And remember, 3 strikes are enough to poise break enemies. During their recovery animation after a critical, you can easily drink a flask, at no danger whatsoever. Faith isn't really necessary for this character, especially since we are starved for points because of the high vigor and strength. Of course, if you have the points to spare, then 25 for the best Faith buffs. Otherwise, I like 12 because it lets you at least cast the Bestial Vitality spell for one of the most efficient regeneration sources in the game. Still, because of how high your healing potential with Prayerful Strike is, you might as well not care for it. But 12 Faith and 10 Arcane also lets you cast the Blood Flame weapon buff, which is a nice way of getting extra damage. Once again, these aren't necessary, so if you wanna save points, feel free to ignore both Faith and Arcane. Anyways, the last of the points go into endurance. But honestly, even if you go with the lightest armor possible, almost fully naked, this character can still function quite well. If you don't wanna always fat roll, however, unless wearing the lightest of armor, then 20 to 30 endurance should be enough. Now let's get into the best gear for our highest hit points, best lifesteal character. Starting with weapon, I decided to go for the Heavy Giant Crusher, as I'm pretty sure it is still the weapon with the highest strength scaling possible for the highest attack rating with a colossal weapon. This is why our character has close to 2000 attack rating unbuffed at max blessing. Since you already have all the tanking and healing potential from your Ash of War and other gear options, you might as well min max damage as well. And of course you want the heavy affinity for the highest strength scaling possible. Don't forget that as far as using this earlier in the game, well, you can just use a Great Club, which already comes with Prayerful Strike, but 40 strength is enough to wield this properly when two-handing it. Our other weapon choices are just here for utility. A dagger because it weighs very little, first with the Golden Vow Ash of War for pre-buffing purposes, unless you get 25 faith. Besides that, a Misericord dagger with the Endure Ash of War. Why Endure? Well, it is true that you have ultra face tanking and healing, life stealing potential. It's just that sometimes, if you find yourself getting staggered by a boss a lot, like the final boss of the DLC, remember, you can always use Endure for a quick heal on demand, for both FP and hit points. It's just here as a failsafe. Besides that, just any finger seal if you wanna cast some of the low faith buffs like Bestial Vitality. You can of course also use a shield like the Rickety Shield, which is very lightweight, for the Holy Ground Ash of War, which enhances your tanking and regeneration potential to the max. It's just that because it is a stationary ground effect, depending on the boss you're fighting, if they move around a lot or make you chase after them, this won't really be that efficient. But it's here just in case. Also, if you have enough equipment load for it, the Twin Bird Kite Shield can remain equipped on your back for its effect even when two-handing your Giant Crusher weapon. It has a very nice property of enhancing your defenses when your HP is at around 20%, which for a build that has enormous hit points, at 3000 plus of course, is not really that dangerous because you won't be at one-shot tier whenever at 20% of such a high amount. Now let's cover our armor selection. Armor isn't really that important for this character, but something fun is the new Fire Knight Helm because it has the very unique property of increasing your maximum HP, stamina, and maximum equipment load, kinda like a minor Erd3 Favor Talisman. For the hit points, it's around plus 2%. It's not necessary, but if you really wanna min-max your HP, it's here for that. I just went with the rest of the Fire Knight set for fashion, because at least it won't clash with your helm. But feel free to go with whatever armor types you want, depending if you want to finish this character at medium or even heavy load. But when buffed, you can have good enough defenses. I mean, we have 75 unbuffed. Talismans, of course, are very important. First, the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. While you have enormous life-stealing potential, the higher your defenses, the easier it is to fully complement and realize our face tanking playstyle. Besides that, we have some other HP boosts, such as the Crimson Ember Medallion plus 3, the highest source of extra hit points outside of Great Runes, Erd3's Favor plus 2 also for higher HP, stamina, and equipment load. This isn't that necessary, however. My preferred pick here is actually the Ritual Shield Talisman, which increases your damage negation by a lot when you are at full HP. For most builds, this is an issue, not really for our face-tanking life-stealing character, however, because remember, one use of Prayerful Strike is almost always putting you at full HP anyways. Lastly, just the Shard of Alexander for the highest damage possible with our Prayerful Strike Ash of War. You can of course go for another defensive option, such as for example if you still wanna use the Erd3's Favor Talisman. but I'd rather more damage because we have good enough defenses already with this setup. For consumables it's pretty simple, Borrowed Crab for higher physical damage negation, and I already have a guide on how to tank to the max with all builds, you can check to the side here with all sources covered. And lastly, just turtlenecks for the stamina regeneration bonuses, even better if you are at high equipment load. Your Wondrous Physick Mix Flask is also very important to achieve the highest defenses and hit points, starting with the Opaline Heart here for the huge bonus to all damage negation, and followed by, for once, the Crimson Spill Crystal tier. This will increase your HP by around 10%, which of course is great for a build that's all about maximizing it. Now if you want the highest damage possible, you can also go for the Blood-Sucking Crack tier. While it will constantly drain your hit points, it's not really an issue because, well, you're constantly healing to full anyways, through Prayerful Strike. And of course, as usual, if you want the ability to retain light rolling with the heaviest of armors, the Winged Crystal tier. Last but not least, Morgoth's Great Rune is a must-have, because of its huge bonus to HP, plus 25%, which adds up quite nicely when combined with all the other bonuses we have. Yes, it will go away upon death, but look, this character is so tanky that I don't see you dying that much, at least not as much as other builds anyways. So you can definitely use Morgoths to great efficiency. Well, alright friends, so this was it for our highest HP, highest lifesteal build possible. If you found this guide useful, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and also consider becoming a channel member if you can. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.